Olivia stood in the dimly lit bedroom, her hand trembling as she held the key to the locked drawer she'd just discovered. Her heart raced as she carefully unlocked it. She had never suspected David, her boyfriend of 4 years, of hiding anything. But the drawer revealed a different story. Inside, among various papers, lay documents, secret bank accounts, a second ID, and letters that had a different name. A name she didn't recognize. She felt her breath catch in her throat, the room suddenly too small, too suffocating. The world she thought she knew was unraveling before her eyes. Each piece of paper was a jigsaw puzzle she hadn't been prepared to solve. Every corner she turned felt darker, and Olivia could no longer ignore the gnawing suspicion gnawing at her chest. How long had David been living this other life? And why had he hidden it from her? She slid the documents back into the drawer, her hands shaking, knowing she could never look at him the same way again. Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that the walls around her were closing in. The night felt colder now, as though the air itself had changed. She sat at the edge of the bed, clutching the documents to her chest, unable to look at them again. Her mind raced, replaying every conversation, every gesture David had ever made, searching for clues she'd missed. She tried to rationalize, tried to believe it was all some mistake, but the evidence was undeniable. The name on the papers, someone who wasn't her, kept echoing in her head. Sarah. Who was she? Why had David been hiding all of this? Olivia felt betrayed by the one person she trusted most. Each memory of their life together now felt like a lie. The life she'd built with him, the future they'd planned, seemed shattered in that one moment of discovery. She couldn't face him yet, not with the storm of emotions and questions swirling inside her. The uncertainty gnawed at her, a gnawing hunger that could only be sated by the truth. But was she ready to face it? Or was it too late to turn back? David had called twice already, but Olivia couldn't bring herself to answer. The sound of her phone ringing felt like an accusation, like he knew she'd found something, and he was already preparing his defense. She didn't want to hear his lies, not yet. She needed time to process everything. But when she finally picked up the phone, his voice on the other end was as warm as it had always been. "Olivia, hey, where are you?" he asked as if nothing had changed. She hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. "I'm just thinking," she responded, her voice trembling slightly, betraying her emotions. He seemed unaware of the storm brewing in her mind. He sounded so casual, so normal, like nothing was wrong. The dissonance made her stomach churn. How could he pretend everything was fine? Couldn't he see the abyss between them now? Olivia didn't know how long she could keep pretending, how long she could keep up the facade of normalcy. "David," she finally said, her voice strained, "we need to talk." David arrived home later that evening, the door creaking as he entered, just like any other day. Olivia stood by the window pretending to be calm, but her heart was racing. He called out to her with his usual cheerful tone, but the smile on his face quickly faded as he saw her standing there, watching him. His eyes searched hers for any sign of what was coming. "What's wrong, Olivia?" he asked, his voice low, trying to gauge her mood. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she walked toward him, every step heavy with the weight of the truth she had to face. "Who is Sarah?" she finally asked, her voice quiet but firm. He froze, the tension between them palpable. She could see his facade slip for a brief moment, before he quickly recovered. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his voice suddenly defensive, his eyes avoiding hers. "You know exactly what I'm talking about," she replied, her voice rising slightly. "You've been hiding something from me, David. Who is Sarah?" David tried to backpedal, his words coming out in a jumble of confusion and half-truths. "Olivia, I swear there's nothing going on. You're overthinking this." But Olivia wasn't fooled. She had seen the way his eyes darted away, the nervousness in his voice. The trust she once had in him was slipping through her fingers like sand. "Don't lie to me, David. I saw the papers," she said, her voice cold and steady, the hurt evident in her eyes. He took a deep breath, clearly caught off guard by her confession. "Olivia, listen, I can explain," he stammered. But she was already done listening. She didn't need his explanations, not anymore. What was the point? The truth was staring at her, and no amount of excuses could erase what she had found. "I don't want your explanations," she said firmly. "I want the truth." Olivia spent the next few days in a haze, caught between the need for answers and the fear of what those answers might bring. The weight of David's lies pressed on her chest, making it hard to breathe. She replayed their moments together, looking for signs she'd missed. When she shared her suspicions with Sophia, her best friend, she hoped for comfort. But instead, Sophia dismissed it as paranoia. "You're overthinking," Sophia said, but Olivia couldn't shake the image of the papers, the second ID. There had to be more to this. She needed to know what David was hiding. But confronting him again felt impossible. So she started looking for herself, searching through David's belongings, trying to piece together the truth before he could lie his way out of it. Olivia couldn't sleep that night. As the hours stretched on, she found herself walking through their apartment, touching things she'd never noticed before. The photos on the wall, the little trinkets David had left around, they all felt like symbols of a life she no longer recognized. She finally went to David's closet, the one place she hadn't dared to search. There, hidden beneath a pile of clothes, she found an old box. Her heart beat faster as she opened it, revealing more receipts, a second set of car keys, and a letter with an unfamiliar name. Olivia froze, a cold wave washing over her. Who was this person, and why were they connected to David? She felt sick to her stomach as she realized how deep the deception ran. The following day, Olivia felt trapped in her own mind. She couldn't stop thinking about the letter, the keys, and the overwhelming feeling of betrayal. When David came home that afternoon, she barely looked at him. He greeted her with his usual smile, asking about her day, but Olivia felt distant, as if the space between them had grown immeasurably. As he moved around the kitchen, preparing a quick dinner, she tried to act normal, but the words felt like they were stuck in her throat. She wanted to scream, to demand the truth. But she couldn't. Instead, she just watched him, waiting for some crack in his perfect facade. But it never came. David was still the same charming, confident man he'd always been, and that was what made everything feel so much worse. Olivia couldn't hold it in anymore. That night, as they sat down for dinner, the tension finally snapped. "David, who is she?" she asked quietly, her voice trembling with suppressed emotion. David looked up, his eyes narrowing, the flicker of surprise quickly replaced by defensive anger. "What are you talking about?" he demanded. "You've been hiding something from me," Olivia said, her voice steadier now, the truth spilling out like a dam breaking. "I found the letter. I found the keys." David's jaw clenched, and for the first time, Olivia saw fear in his eyes. He wasn't ready for this. She wasn't ready for this. But there was no turning back. The walls he'd built around his life were crumbling, and she was determined to tear them down. David tried to deny it, tried to explain away the evidence, but Olivia wasn't listening anymore. The hurt was too deep, the lies too numerous. "I don't believe you," she said, her voice breaking with the weight of everything she was feeling. David's expression shifted, from anger to desperation. He leaned forward, his voice softer now. "Olivia, please, I never wanted you to find out this way. I can explain." But Olivia shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "No more lies," she whispered. "I can't do this anymore." She stood up abruptly, walking away from the table, leaving David in the silence of the kitchen. The truth had come out, and nothing would ever be the same. Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that something more was hidden. David's words no longer comforted her. They felt like hollow excuses. Her suspicions deepened when she noticed his behavior growing erratic. He'd been working late often, claiming it was for a big project, but Olivia didn't believe him anymore. One night, she followed him. She watched him leave their apartment and drive toward the outskirts of the city. Her heart pounded as she tried to keep a safe distance, wondering where he was going, what he was doing. She had to know the truth, no more half measures. The lies had built up, and Olivia was determined to unravel them, piece by piece. Olivia returned home after following David, her mind racing. She couldn't believe what she'd seen. He'd stopped at a small house on the outskirts of the city, one she'd never seen before. Was this another lie? Had he been hiding another life? She stayed awake most of the night, replaying the images in her mind. When David came home the next morning, everything seemed normal. But Olivia could no longer pretend. She wanted answers, but her fear of what they might be kept her silent. She needed to confront him, but this time, it had to be different. This time, there would be no denying the truth. The next day, Olivia couldn't hold back. As David prepared to leave for work, she stopped him. "David, where were you last night?" she asked, her voice tight with barely contained emotion. He froze for a moment, clearly taken aback by her directness. "What do you mean?" he stammered, his gaze avoiding hers. "I followed you," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. "I saw you go to that house. Who's there, David?" His face changed, the confident mask cracking, revealing a brief flicker of fear. "It's not what you think," he said quickly, but the damage was done. Olivia could see the lies piling up, and for the first time, she wasn't sure she could trust him anymore. David's reaction was a mixture of denial and frustration. "You don't understand, Olivia. There's nothing going on," he insisted, his voice rising slightly. "I've been telling you the truth." But Olivia was no longer convinced. The lies were so obvious now, they hung in the air like smoke. She looked at him, her eyes cold. "I don't believe you," she said simply, her voice steady but firm. "I'm done with your lies." His face twisted in frustration, but he didn't argue further. The silence between them felt like a brick wall. Olivia wasn't sure if she was ready for what was next, but she couldn't keep living in the shadow of his deceit. Something had to break. Later that night, Olivia couldn't sleep. Her mind kept replaying the words, the lies, the moments of doubt that had been building over the past few weeks. Her heart ached, and she felt both betrayed and powerless. She couldn't deny it anymore. David had been hiding something far deeper than she had imagined. She thought about the life they had built together, the trust she had placed in him, and it all felt like a lie. The thought of confronting him again was terrifying, but it was inevitable now. She had to face him, no matter the consequences. She couldn't keep pretending. There was only one way forward, the truth no matter how much it hurt. Olivia's breath caught in her throat as she stood at the door of the small house David had visited. She had followed him again, determined to get to the heart of the mystery. This time, she wouldn't be swayed by his lies. As she peered through a crack in the door, she saw him, standing with a woman. Her heart skipped a beat. The woman was smiling, her hand resting on David's arm, a gesture that felt far too intimate for someone who was supposedly hiding nothing. Olivia's mind raced. Who was she? The woman's face blurred in Olivia's vision, but it didn't matter. The truth was slipping into place, and the pieces of her shattered life were starting to align. She stepped back from the door, unable to watch anymore. The weight of her discovery was suffocating. She had to confront him now. Olivia stormed back to the apartment, her footsteps loud in the otherwise silent hallway. When David arrived home, she didn't give him the chance to speak. "Who is she, David?" Her voice was steady, but the anger underneath was unmistakable. "You don't have to hide this anymore." David's face paled, and he seemed to shrink back for a moment before regaining some composure. "Olivia, it's not what you think." His voice cracked slightly, but she was beyond being deceived. She stepped forward, her gaze unwavering. "I saw you with her. Don't lie to me anymore. Who is she?" David looked away, his lips trembling, unable to meet her gaze. "She's just a friend. A mistake, Olivia. Please just listen to me." Olivia shook her head, unable to trust his words anymore. She had seen enough, felt enough. The lies had piled up, and now they were collapsing under their own weight. "A mistake? You've been lying to me for months, David. Months." The betrayal cut deeper than she ever thought possible. "You can't just brush this off. I deserve more than this. I deserve the truth." The silence between them was deafening. Olivia's chest tightened with each passing second. Ow. She couldn't keep doing this. She couldn't keep pretending. "I'm done, David," she said quietly, her voice steady but full of finality. I can't be with someone who keeps secrets from me, who lies to my face. I need the truth, and I can't stay in this lie anymore. David reached out to her, his voice breaking. Olivia, please, don't leave me, I can fix this. She shook her head, the tears finally falling freely. No, David. I don't believe you anymore. She turned and walked out of the room, leaving him standing there, alone with his lies. The following days were a blur. Olivia felt hollow, like a part of her had been torn away, and she was struggling to rebuild her sense of self. She had loved David, and that love had been her anchor for so long. But now, she was floating in a sea of uncertainty, unsure of where to go next. She tried to reach out to Sophia, but the words of dismissal still echoed in her mind. She couldn't talk to her friend about this anymore. Olivia had to figure out her next steps alone. But each night, as the darkness settled, the weight of the lies crept in again. Could she ever trust anyone again? The days following her confrontation with David felt like an emotional detox for Olivia. She didn't want to see him, didn't want to hear his explanations anymore. But the silence between them was deafening. Olivia spent her time reclaiming her space, her apartment, her life, her sense of identity. She started packing up the small, insignificant things she had accumulated with David, putting them in boxes. Each item felt like another stitch in the wound that had opened within her. She knew it was time to move on, but each step forward felt like an act of defiance against the life she had once thought was perfect. Yet, there was no turning back now. The truth was undeniable, and Olivia was no longer afraid to face it. One afternoon, Olivia ran into Sophia. Her best friend's eyes were filled with concern, but there was also a hint of guilt. Olivia, I didn't mean to dismiss your feelings before. I'm sorry. I should have been there for you. Olivia took a deep breath, the weight of the past few weeks still heavy on her shoulders. It's okay, she said quietly. I needed to figure this out on my own. She didn't tell Sophia how much the silence between them had hurt, or how much she needed someone to believe her. But she knew that the past couldn't be changed, only the future. Sophia looked at her, still unsure of what to say, but Olivia just smiled softly. I'm starting over, Soph. I don't know where I'm going, but it feels better than living in the unknown. Sophia nodded, relieved that Olivia had found her strength again. The weeks went by, and Olivia slowly started to regain a sense of normalcy. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. It wasn't just the absence of David, but the absence of trust, of knowing that the ground beneath her feet was solid. One evening, as she walked home from a late shift, she saw someone waiting for her outside her apartment building. Her heart skipped a beat as she saw David standing there, looking hesitant and unsure. Olivia, please, he said quietly, his voice full of desperation. Can we talk? I know you don't want to hear it, but I need to explain. Olivia's chest tightened. She had thought about this moment, wondered if she'd ever have the strength to face him again. But she couldn't let him back into her life. She had to be stronger than the love she once had for him. No, David, Olivia said softly, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions raging inside. I don't need any more explanations. I don't want to hear it. I've given you enough chances. Her heart felt heavy, but her resolve was unwavering. David took a step back, his face crumpling as if the weight of her words had struck him harder than anything she could imagined. Olivia, I love you, he whispered, his voice barely audible. But the words fell flat against the walls she had built around herself. That's not enough anymore, she replied, shaking her head. I loved you too, but love isn't enough when trust is gone. She turned and walked into the building, not looking back, even as David's voice faded behind her. Time passed, and Olivia found herself breathing again. It wasn't easy, but she was no longer suffocating under the weight of David's secrets. She focused on herself, reconnected with old friends, started new hobbies, and spent time discovering who she was without him. There were moments of doubt, moments when she wondered if she would ever trust anyone again. But each day, she learned that she was stronger than she had known. One afternoon, she sat in a park, watching the sun set over the horizon. The sky was painted in shades of pink and orange, and for the first time in a long while, Olivia felt at peace. The future was uncertain, but it was hers to shape, and she was ready for whatever came next. Months passed, and Olivia found herself surrounded by new experiences. She had thrown herself into work, rediscovered old passions, and started exploring the parts of herself that she had neglected during her relationship with David. It wasn't easy, but she was finally starting to feel like herself again. One afternoon, while volunteering at a local shelter, she met someone new. His name was Jack, warm, kind, and genuinely interested in her as a person. It started with small talk, then turned into laughter, and soon Olivia found herself sharing parts of her life she hadn't spoken about in years. For the first time since David, Olivia allowed herself to feel something that wasn't tied to the past. She felt a spark, not of romance yet, but of connection, the kind she had longed for, but had been too afraid to pursue. Over the next few weeks, Olivia and Jack spent more time together. They would meet for coffee, talk about their passions, and sometimes share their quieter, more vulnerable sides. Olivia found herself laughing again, enjoying the simple moments without the weight of the past hanging over her. One evening, as they walked through the city park, Jack turned to her, his expression earnest. "Olivia," he began, "I know we're just getting to know each other, but I feel like there's something real here. I like you, a lot." Olivia paused, taken by surprise. Her heart raced, but this time it wasn't out of fear. It was something new, something exciting. "I like you too," she said softly, a smile breaking across her face. "But I'm not sure I'm ready for anything serious yet." Jack nodded, his smile warm and understanding. "We can take it slow," he said. "No pressure, just whatever feels right." Olivia felt a wave of relief wash over her. She wasn't rushing into anything, but she was open to whatever this could become. A few months later, Olivia and Jack's connection had deepened. They'd grown comfortable with each other, and the walls Olivia had built around her heart started to soften. One evening, as they sat together on her couch, Olivia finally opened up about her past. "I've been hurt before," she admitted, her voice quiet. "I trusted someone completely, and I thought I knew everything about him. But I was wrong. I don't want to make the same mistake again." Jack listened patiently, his hand resting gently on hers. "You don't have to trust me all at once," he said. "Trust is something that builds over time. I'm here for you no matter what." Olivia looked at him, her heart filled with gratitude. Maybe this time, it would be different. She could build something with someone new, on her own terms. As the months went on, Olivia found herself feeling more and more at peace with her life. She had rebuilt her sense of self, discovered new things about herself, and found a sense of stability that she had never known before. One day, as she sat in her favorite cafe, sipping coffee and reading a book, she realized something. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was thriving. The past had shaped her, but it no longer defined her. Her heart was open, her future uncertain but full of possibilities. When Jack joined her at the table, smiling brightly as he slid into the seat across from her, she realized how far she had come. She could look at him and smile, knowing that no matter what came next, she had the strength to face it. One afternoon, Jack took Olivia on a surprise trip to the countryside. The open road stretched ahead of them, the fields around them glowing in the golden light of the setting sun. They spent the day hiking through trails, talking about their hopes and dreams, and discovering more about each other with every step. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Jack stopped and turned to Olivia. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice full of affection. "You've been through a lot, and I admire your strength. But I want you to know, I'm not going anywhere." Olivia smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile. "I'm not afraid of the future anymore, Jack," she said. "For the first time in a long while, I'm looking forward to it." It had been nearly 2 years since Olivia had walked away from David, and she had changed more than she ever thought possible. Her relationship with Jack had grown strong, grounded in mutual respect, patience, and trust. They had traveled, shared countless quiet moments, and built a life together, one that felt real and steady. Yet, Olivia knew she needed one final step for her own peace: closure with David. She hadn't spoken to him since that last confrontation. But when she received a letter from him, an unexpected wave of emotion flooded her. The letter was simple, a heartfelt apology, acknowledging everything she had gone through, and expressing how much he regretted the hurt he had caused her. Olivia didn't know if she was ready to respond, but she knew she couldn't keep running from her past. It was time to face it head on. Olivia spent the next few days contemplating what to do with the letter. She had come so far, had built a life she was proud of, but part of her knew that responding to David was an essential step in closing that chapter. She discussed it with Jack, who had been her rock throughout her healing. "It's your decision, Olivia," Jack said, his voice steady. "You don't have to do anything for anyone but yourself. If this brings you peace, then go ahead. If it doesn't, that's okay too." His support gave her the strength she needed. Olivia didn't need closure from David to move on. She needed closure for herself. Finally, she sat down at her desk, pen in hand, and began writing a letter of her own. It wasn't a letter filled with anger or blame. It was simply a way for her to say goodbye, to release the past. The letter was simple, but it was enough. Olivia folded it carefully, sealed it in an envelope, and addressed it to David. She didn't know if she would ever hear from him again, and she didn't need to. What mattered was that she had confronted her past and freed herself from its grip. She didn't expect forgiveness from him, nor did she need it. She was free. That evening, Jack took her hand as they stood outside their apartment, looking up at the stars. "You're stronger than you know," he said softly, squeezing her hand. Olivia smiled, looking up at the sky, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. "I've learned that sometimes healing isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about moving forward one step at a time." A few weeks later, Olivia received a response to her letter. It wasn't from David. It was from someone else. His mother. The letter expressed regret, apologizing for the way things had unfolded, and sharing how David had been dealing with the aftermath of their relationship. Olivia read the letter with a mixture of emotion, but in the end it didn't matter. She had let go. The past was part of who she was, but it was no longer her identity. Jack was with her now, and together, they were building a future based on trust and understanding. Olivia's heart felt lighter as she set the letter aside, knowing she had done all she needed to heal. The seasons changed, and so did Olivia's life. She and Jack continued to grow together, creating new memories, new traditions, and new ways of seeing the world. Their relationship was solid, rooted in the foundation of honesty, respect, and love. Olivia no longer looked over her shoulder at the life she had left behind. She was finally embracing the life ahead of her. One morning, as she stood by the window, looking out at the city skyline, she realized that the woman she had become was everything she had always needed to be: strong, independent, and whole. There was still so much to discover, but Olivia knew now that she was ready for whatever came next. With Jack by her side, she was no longer afraid of the future.